Hey everyone, Future here, and today we're going to do a quick comparison between the RhytmizerMB and the Shaperbox by Cableguys. This is not going to be an in-depth video explaining all the features and how everything works in these plugins. Rather, this will be a short comparison to give you an idea of which product is more suited for your needs. So let's just kick it off with the beat. This can of course be used on everything, vocals, synths, guitars, whatever you want. But just for the sake of demonstration, I'll be using a drum beat with EXO by Excellent Audio. So this is our drum beat, it's pretty steady. And now let's talk a little bit about how these products work. So these are in essence basically the same thing. They both manipulate time, filters, and volume. And Shaperbox also gives you the option to adjust the pen and the width of the signal. And if you have the newer Shaperbox, this is the V1. If you have the V2, you also get a bit crusher, which you can modulate over time. But for the sake of comparison, we're just going to look at filters, volume, and time. Both of these VSTs are MIDI compatible, meaning that you can use MIDI input to change the programs. In Rytmizer, it's always set up straight from the get-go, so it doesn't require a lot of setting up. You can just route a MIDI signal into it, and if you press a key, you can see that it changes according to the key I press. In Shaperbox, you need to set this up with the MIDI trigger setup, and you need to define all the things you want to use, which is fairly easy. You can just make something, I don't know, for instance this, hit the save button, and it's in the box. And now you can MIDI trigger it over the keys D, D sharp, and E. So that's still pretty basic stuff. In fact, a lot of the functionality between these two is pretty similar. So I want to focus on the big differences. First off is of course UI. As you can see, the UI of the Shaperbox is very straightforward. Where this UI is a little bit more involved, and that's also because there's simply more features below the surface. Where Shaperbox gives you a few slots you can fill up with your presets for MIDI triggering. This entire grid can be used for the Rytmizer, which is a really annoying name, really, but I think it explains what it does. So let's just first listen to both of these with the pattern. So let's hit it. All right. Okay, so let's go through some presets and listen a little bit to this thing. So that's some of the presets from the Shaperbox. Let's listen a little bit to Rytmizer. So as you can hear, a lot of the stuff it can do is pretty similar. This does, however, have the advantage of having a single shot mode, which can be set to next bar and immediate, which is pretty useful. Shaperbox by default will not single shot things, which can be a little bit annoying because you have to constantly reset it back to where it should be in a normal sense. So I think Rythmizer has a bit of an advantage there. Also, it allows you to link the sequences, so when you hit a key, all of the shapers is still a good name to use actually, jump to the same place. So that's pretty cool. So now you have time, volume and filter all going at the same time. So that gives some extra cool options. Of course, you can also do sort of this stuff with the filter shaper. I'll just grab a preset real quickly. I think it's the last page. Yeah, definitely I would say there's a little bit of an advantage there for Rythmizer, because you have those single shot actions. It's a little bit like StutterEdit, where you can bind everything to a MIDI key, and just while playing live you can just hit a key, get a sequence, and it automatically moves back to the normal rhythm. Another really interesting thing of Rythmizer is it's also multiband, so that's nice, which of course you can also do with Shaperbox. So you get that functionality here as well. It's currently set to a 1 band. You can also set it to 3 bands, for instance, and then you get the band splitting. And you can set effects per band, or you can link all the bands, so when you hit an effect, all bands will get the effect, or you can set it to only affect 1 band. Oh, we're off single shot mode. So that's a cool option to have, to switch between multiband and single band, of course, very nice. And another cool thing, and that's definitely something where Shaperbox is not going to win out on, is just modulators, because this thing has tons of modulation. And just one cool thing I want to start off with is modulating that happens between patterns, for instance. I think this preset did that. If I turn on the main pattern, that's this pattern, I can turn on the modulator. And you can see that it is cycling through the presets. And actually this is controlled by a step sequencer, which you can completely edit, change, mess around with, whatever you feel like. Which is pretty amazing. So this allows you to do even more mangling of the patterns in an automated fashion, which I think is a really nice feature, especially because you can use randomizers here as well. So you can just randomize your patterns and get really weird, unexpected, sort of generative-like effects. And you can also set it to odd times or weird intervals. You can even unsync it. So it can become a very unpredictable thing, while also having the option of it being very predictable, where Shaperbox is a little bit more toned down and always syncs to the beats, or you can hard sync it, but it's still pretty locked in a sense. It doesn't have the weird odd times sequence lengths. You can go all the way up to 64 steps, which is a lot. You can I was having a little bit of problem there. You can change the syncing to 4, 5, 6, 7, which is pretty amazing. So I would definitely say they both have their very distinct uses. I would say Shaperbox is one of those tools if you just quickly need to draw something in or you need to change something. This is definitely the easier tool to use. Like if you just want to filter, sweep something, it's just as easy as turning it on. I probably have to initialize this. There we go. Let's throw filter on, bypass this one. That's simple. So that's definitely a huge advantage of Shaperbox. It's very, very easy to use, very easy to control. And it has a lot of options in the filters. It has a lot of options preset in the volume that you will probably use, like the basic fake sidechain effects and stuff like that. It's very easy to set up. It also has resonance on the filter. That's something I couldn't find in the Rythmizer. Bit of a letdown, but maybe they'll add it in later. But overall, this is your easy go-to manipulator box, the Shaperbox. Very easy to use. And if you want more, if you want crazy, if you want to modulate every single parameter of your effect, I would definitely say Rythmizer is the way to go. A little bit harder to use, admittedly. There's a reason the manual is absolutely huge. But still, so I would say if you're really into sound mangling, if you're really into those stutter effects, kind of like the StutterEdit sort of thing, this is the one to get, because it gives you way much more freedom in your effects and way more options. But still, it's a preference thing. If you're into quick and making things work, I would never say Shaperbox is a bad plugin. It's very good. Really very good, and I use it a lot still, but it isn't as flexible as the Rythmizer. So that's my short introductory versus video. It doesn't go very in depth, I know, but I hope it gives you at least a little bit of an idea of what these plugins do. You can still pick up RhytmizerMB with a discount, I believe. That's still running for a few more days. And yeah, definitely go check it out and check out some other videos here on my YouTube channel. And I wish you a great day. See ya.